So we continue with the last part of today's webinar. I'm happy to welcome Andrea Saluz and Naomi Zuricher, and I will give you the word so that you know how you're going to present who is first, who is next. Enjoy.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Wonderful, thank you. So, hello together. I'm really sorry for my video thing. It's not working. I don't know why. Hello together from our side. Not me and myself will present the potential of I3 for quantifying ecosystem services of urban trees. And the content of our presentation, I will do the start. Trees in urban areas, just a shortly discussion about it. Then we go into ecosystem services, of course, then into I3 and how to do I3 in practice, get into action, which is the part of Naomi Zuricher. She will do the I3 on Tilia platyphilus in Lucerne. So just for the very beginning, let us consider a tree on an optimal location. Usually a tree has root area, or the root area of a tree requires a multiple of its crown volume. We go into urban situation. We have a big loss of root zone, and the root zone is already decreased. In practice, it looks like this. We have supply lines, so like gas, water, electricity, phone lines, and so on, which is underneath or below ground. So we have below ground even more challenges than above ground, with sun, UV radiation, pruning, sometimes unprofessional pruning. We have dog feces, water deficiency, and so on and so on. So this is what a tree has to challenge in practice. And with this starting situation, the tree never gets this volume or this canopy we want them to achieve. It's nothing new, it's not surprising. Nevertheless, it's important to mention that with these situations, even street trees are not prepared for future. An important graph to me is this one with the loss of the eaves area. The tree gets robbed of this eaves area with which contains a high percentage of tender roots, which has direct influence on nutrient security for the tree. And imagine, I hope you can see my laser pointer. Imagine if we do kind of a pot in street areas. The tree is definitely a pot plant and not a tree anymore. So we have to improve the situation for trees in urban areas with, for example, extended soil volumes or extended root volumes. We need to strengthen the vitality of urban trees. Trees in parks or streets cannot unfold their full potential regarding ecosystem services, of course. They only reach up 25% of their potential age. Sometimes they're not getting older than 20 years. On average, it's 40 years. As I mentioned, less for street trees. Problematic trees only unfold their full ecological potential at the age of around 50 years, depending on species, of course. And what's important to mention as well is the last point. Due to maintenance and security checks, the costs for a single tree increase with the age, often due to mismanagement and mistakes in the early years of the tree. But of course, as well, as well as new diseases due to climate change. Michael Fuchs knows what I'm talking about. For example, Zurich has to climb every single I forgot the name. X hispanica, X hybrida, platanus has to, sorry for that, has to climb every platanus twice a year to due to the Massaria disease. So this is why the costs are increasing for all the trees. A very important thing is that urban trees are situated within a very, very dynamic environment. The life cycle of a tree surpasses that of an urban infrastructure, for example, road surfaces or supply lines. These are infrastructure which has to be renewed after 35 or 40 years, and the tree has the potential to live much more further on, even plenty of centuries after that. The compaction does not solely occur above ground, it's even more below ground. And modern engineering practices provide hardly any space for root growth. So this is the result that why trees not getting older than these 25 or 30 years. But of course, that's something we knew. But what can we do? What is a possible solution? So this is urban forestry, an interdisciplinary field of work, of course. And we have to spanning many disciplines and stakeholders together, such as urban foresters, arborists, of course, urban planners and ecologists, architects, landscape architects as well. And really important, we need an informed public what the tree provides in cities for our health and well-being. So possible solutions would be, we need to show the benefits of ecosystem services, the informing of the population as well as politicians about the importance of urban green spaces and the services they provide is important. We need urban green spaces, especially urban trees, which provides many services almost for free without any gray energy. And there are comparably few studies on ecosystem services provided by urban trees. This is Manco. Ecosystem services provided by major trees. It's crucial to have a better understanding of the overall value of urban trees, which offers, of course, what we heard already, increased canopy, which leads to an exponential increase of essential ecosystem services, and of course greatly increased biodiversity benefits. And nevertheless, socio-economic value provided by all trees, for example, as meeting point or just the aesthetic value. Therefore, we need to improve our urban tree management in order to protect, preserve, and maintain major urban trees, which is really, really important. So the ecosystem services provided by Urban Green, we got some regulating, provisioning, cultural, and supporting, and also these services. Regulating services are, for example, air purification, carbon storage, what we heard from Olivier as well, temperature regulation, cultural, for example, is health or cultural significance. And these services, due to mismanagement or wrong planning, could lead to decrease in air quality or retention of pollutants. This is rather not the tree's fault. It's mostly, as I mentioned, mismanagement or wrong planning. So this leads us into forest, urban forestry, and city trees. The urban tree primarily does not bring any economic benefit. The typologies are very diverse, and the selection of the tree is based on the function to be fulfilled in combination with societal needs. And very important, ecosystem services must be visible for a wider public, and it has to be considered by growing the tree into maturity. So this is the approach for iTree. iTree is a cooperative initiative between USDA Forest Service, so in the US, and many institutions such as Davy or Arbor Day Foundation. Casey Trees is a huge player in it, and it is important to mention that it is a peer-reviewed program, so every data you get out of iTree, you're able to publish or to work with. There are plenty of tools within iTree. We are working with iTree Echo, which is available for Europe and for Switzerland as well. iTree Echo is a desktop application. It's a field-based assessment and requires inventory data. It's kind of the flagship software based on latest science and local data. I'll come to that afterwards. And it assesses individual trees. So it's the opposite to LiDAR or other tools. It goes into the individual level of the tree. And it accommodates international users. So this is the basis for the Swiss context of iTree. We are able to do a pilot project funded by the Federal Office of Environment within the program Climate Change Adaptation for Switzerland. In this project, iTree is applied simultaneously in 7 Swiss cities and 1 canton, which is Geneva, and defined project parameters. The project partners received individualized trainings from the core group, which is Bern, Arbor, Aegis, so Naomi Zürcher, and myself with the ZHAW. And they get a training in application of the program. We do training days in each city. So these training days were held in the field to ensure accuracy and consistency in data collection. And we are doing knowledge transfer to the cities, and this should be sustainable. So the cities should be able to apply iTree for their needs after this project. So these are the main goals. We have some deliverables already. We translated the iTree manual in German and French, possibly Italian, which is not sure yet. We have a practical field guide called the cheat sheet, which was established by mainly by Naomi Zürcher for data collection in the field. So it's really it's easy to assess these data. We have adjustments in the program based on the feedback of each partner, so of each city. We have this knowledge transfer to city administrations, which is a huge goal of the project. And we have evaluation and documentation on the city level. And all these experiences will be adapted and will be included in an urban forest management toolbox, which contains recommendations for action. And of course, we will communicate on a federal and on a cantonal and of course on a municipal level. Unfortunately, it's a bit too early to present results already. We expect to have results by the end of the year. So I'll stay what I3 requires and what the possibilities of I3 are. So we include field data from each city. The I3 contains a species database, which contains, this is an old number, Naomi, you can correct me, it should be in the meantime over 14,000 species.
Right.
We have location database, so city info with hourly pollution data and hourly weather data, which is really important to have results on the very city level. I3 uses these infos to provide results in, for example, carbon sequestration, improving of air quality, avoided runoff as well. If you want, you can have energy effects calculated. And of course, we have the value of the structure of the tree itself. The basic science is not really difficult. We measure the crown width, the tree height, the crown base, and of course the tree DBH. We estimate tree leaf area using species-specific equations, or I3 does that. It estimates benefits largely based on leaf area. That's why we have to give in the crown width and the tree height and the crown base. And combined with local weather and air pollution, it gets a result pretty specific, pretty precise to the location where the tree stands. These are the direct measures which we have to fill into the program. So as I mentioned already, crown base height, crown width, and so on. Of course, the species, because it depends on the species how the ecosystem services looks like. We have to give in percentage crown missing, which is how should I say, which is the main difference to LiDAR data, for example. We have to fill in field land use, which has an impact on ecosystem services as well. And here you can see the ecosystem services, which is calculated by I3. For example, avoided runoff or transpiration, gross carbon sequestration, air pollution removal, and so on and so on. I3 Echo assess, as I mentioned, the structure of the tree, as well as the function of the tree, which contains energy effects, pollution removal, carbon, hydrologically effects, air quality and health impacts, and of course bioemissions. And it calculates it in value, in a monetary value with local currency. And of course, you are able to do customizable management and maintenance information with the program. You can do forecasting as well, depending on DBH and height of the tree, and of course the current climate at this location, combined with crown light exposure, dieback, and species. It goes into crown estimates, leaf area, and benefits. And you can do with all these information estimates or forecasting what your urban forest is providing in the future. And you can do that, of course, for all years. You can repeat it as much as you want. What do you get from I3? you can do an individual tree reporting, which contains structure and benefits of any tree you measured, and get a report of the benefits of every single tree. Here you get, here as an example, we have the avoided runoff by individual tree you measured. It's an example from the US. The species name, usually it should be scientific, so Latin, not the common names, but you can see what iTree is providing. Here we got the English metrics, so for Europe or for Switzerland, we took the metrics, of course, the European metrics. So iTree data and evaluation, the key questions, the overview of the data that can be generated. What we have to provide to the program is the structural, and so on, and location, of course. And iTree calculates from all these structural data and the ecosystem services, such as removal of air pollutants, for example, the quantity per year, and of course the monetary equivalent as well per year. And you can do that as a forecast for possibility for XY years. iTree provides all these data in more or less hardly readable table, such as carbon storage by metric ton, and it calculates it in what's the monetary equivalent in Swiss francs. And of course, we have the structural value of the tree in Swiss francs. So this is the evaluation per tree species. If you have, for example, let's say Bern or Zurich, we have a lot of pseudoplatanus, and you want to know what these pseudoplatanus in your city provides, you can do the evaluation per tree species. You can do as well the evaluation per every single tree, and have the results on the very individual tree level. Well, with these tables, it's pretty difficult to inform polity or just a population of a city. So we have the stratum as well, which is bold. You can set up some stratums to do comparisons between, for example, forest and parks, or for example, street 1 compared to street 2. So the stratum is also a very important tool within iTree. You can get a DBH class report as well. So you have the DBH class. Here it's inches, of course. In Europe or in Switzerland, we would do that in centimeters. And you see the DBH classes from each tree species, for example. So you can, so you have an overview what how old or how big every tree species in your city or in your perimeter is. And all these data should be provided to a special target group, such as politicians or maybe city population, citizens. And this is what iTree London, does with iTree. So they have a graph which says, for example, that 2.3 million tons of carbon is stored in London, London city trees, which is worth 147 million pounds. And this is something you are surprised about, the amount of this value, of this monetary value. You can do that in several ways. For example, here, what Casey Trees has done in Washington, D.C. in their Stormwater and Trees report, they calculated the avoided runoff into Olympic swimming pools, that everyone has an idea of what this tree is providing to the city environment, and of course for every citizen. So it is much more understandable when you're able to imagine 41 Olympic swimming pools than, for example, 40,000 cubic meters of water. The same is done here as well from Casey Trees in Washington. So they made the comparative value, for example, for the weight of roughly 220 cars. So this is something the data can create, or you can create out of the data, and make it understandable for example, politicians or citizens. We get into action, and this is a pretty simple measure to inform, for example, the public, the public of a city, what trees provide, or especially here, especially with this tree tax, what this particular tree provides for the urban environment, and of course for every citizen. And it's pretty simple to look at. You see what this particular tree is providing year by year, and so you have kind of an understanding, or maybe a sensibilization for the trees in the program, in the city. So we're already in summary and outlook. Before we go into practice with Naomi, the vitality of urban trees must be strengthened at all levels. So below ground, above ground, the possibility of quantifying ecosystem services can provide a really great support here. The use of iTree can lead into open and professional communication. And of course, it can lead into discussions about urban trees and the importance of urban trees, and of course the importance of mature urban trees. And the really interesting thing is that this can work both ways. It can work bottom up, and it can work top down as well. iTree supports both approaches, which is a huge benefit. And all in all, it should lead to a higher acceptance and ultimately to a better protection of course, older urban trees. So this is it from my part, and I would suggest that we go further without any questions and get into practice with Naomi.